options for game design and is the natural place for indie developers. You've got nothing to lose and you can pick these areas that are very specifically interesting to everyone. Obviously, different people have different tastes, and what starts as a small indie game can spark a whole genre and reach people that have never been reached before. While games like Facade have the potential to unlock a new audience that don't go anywhere near Quake, indie games' biggest impact on the market recently has probably come with the rise of casual games. It's a business that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars now and should approach the $1 billion mark in the next few years. In fact, the most popular, the online game with the largest number of simultaneous users in the world is still, and has been for about 10 years now, is still Slingo on AOL. And they have literally millions of simultaneous users all the time, peaking into the tens of millions. For many independent game developers, the best way to make a high-quality game is to really limit the scope. It's fascinating to think that these polished games of limited scope were just what the huge untapped market desired to match its limited time and limited willingness to dive into something complex after a day filled with complexities. Massive AAA games can't be everything to everyone. They can't afford to be, they can't be envisaged to be. There's no way that will work, especially if they want to make back the money that they get spent on them. By the industry's very nature, the spiralling development costs and dependence on the publisher system, independent games will always be the testing ground, the voice of dissent, and the home of gaming art for art's sake. It all adds up to an exciting time when the little guy can still be in the driver's seat, I think. You'd think that the rising cost of high-end titles would lock the path of development, but as we've seen time and again, the tools are becoming available. So, three-way capture the flag, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, and now the casual gaming scene, it just is always opening. It's opening further and further. Many people point to the rising costs of making even indie games and fear that big-name studios will move in the area of casual games and edge little players out by raising the bar on production values, but I don't think that's going to happen because it's the ideas that drive the indie scene. The big-name studios seem to be recognise the value of the little guys, and we see more exposure for them and avenues for their release. You have things like the new Nintendo indie gaming platform, WiiWare. Microsoft is offering golden tickets to XBLA. Sony's bound to have something in the home system somewhere. And the indie game Flow is one of its downloadable game pioneers. And of course, the PC has Valve Steam, Pogo from EA, any number of other indie game portals, and Windows is going to be doing the Windows Live Arcade of course as well. As quality expectations have risen, so has the support available to actually make the games. The tools that are becoming available are just consistently enhancing the quality of the games and making it easier for us to make the games we want to make. There's now a vast information resource in places like DevNet and Indie Gamer forums. There are a variety of engines on offer to help people move past software development and right into the design. We've got the PopCrap framework, there's Talk, JMonkey, Dark Basic, and all sorts of things. Open source 3D, there's either free or something that's going to cost you a lot less than a new video card. You can definitely get the engine to produce the games that you want. And beyond the engine, there's cheap or free programs just waiting to be downloaded from ArtRage to Blender or Audacity. The tools are there, the knowledge base is there, and the willingness to give you more help and advice is all definitely there. All you have to do is bring your own time, money, passion, ideas, and ability. So the fact is, you can still build a game with one person and it can be beautiful. Flash games like Ferry Hallam's collection show that not only are the number of games you can get together alone incredible, but the art that you can cram into them is limited by your own capacity to produce them. In short, the technical barriers to entry are within the reach of everyone in this room, and it's the interest of the big players to keep it that way. So, how do you make it pay? As the cost of AAA games rise, indie games become more important as the avenue for experimentation. I've said this again and again. If you look at the sea of sequels and franchise games in our sales charts, you can answer any questions about innovation in the game scene by pointing at the indie designers. And GameIndustry.biz wrote a fascinating article on the last generation of Nintendo consoles, looking at how the Wii wasn't any more expensive to develop than the PS2, and quoting an install base of 10 million and the notion that it will be the most popular next-gen console in the near future, outstripping the 360. It also points to the 50 million Nintendo DS in the world. Nintendo's definitely kept the door open for independent developers for AAA content in the current gen of consoles. You don't have to go down the $60 million dollar range for a PS3 title. You can look at the smaller consoles, and that goes all the way through the Game Boy and the smaller consoles for the larger groups, and then up to the Wii for developers. It's a full range of options for the independent game developer. Beyond the digital distribution methods we've mentioned, and the likes of Nintendo and its consoles being viable platforms, and the wider audience that are available in casual games, there are new niche markets that need to be approached in new ways. This is a right proposition for the indie developer. Not everyone can throw caution to the wind and just focus on political commentary or experimentation, and bizarre dialogue systems over gameplay. A studio of any size could take pointers from the Darwinian evolution of methodologies coming from the indie scene. We could learn a lot from the ecosystem of design and take a look at how call and response into account from the earlier stages of development. Being willing to change direction based on feedback. Sometimes you need to hear the most anonymous internet troll will take 5 of those people who will tell you, yeah. Sometimes you do need to hear even the most anonymous internet troll. You can learn to have a flexible work pipeline and design outlook. That's something that we've focused on with at InterZone with the agile development methodology. But probably the most important thing you can learn following the indie scene is to look outside of the box. If you want a different control system for moving your warrior through the world, you can look at Ragdoll Kung Fu. Toribash, or maybe the simplicity of flow. Once again, in pushing art and solving problems of limited scale, scope and resources, we not only see what doesn't work, but lean and mean versions of what does. I'm a big believer that it's when you're working against constraints that you really come up with interesting solutions to problems. And as a slightly larger independent studio, InterZone, we created our own constraints to force ourselves to work within them. And it's something that all studios have a constraint system of some kind. It may be just that they have to ship the game within 12 months of development at EA, or it might be that it has to be the best game, the best technology that they can muster, like they have at id. Everyone has constraints, but some constraints are more interesting than others. Australia's got a long history of great independent studios taking on the world. We had Melbourne House, which is, of course, went through Atari, and we've produced a lot of excellent games. Way of the Exploding Fist, MechWarrior, we have SSG, which started in 1983 and is still independent. Chrome is currently working on some big name franchises. And as the game industry grows, it'll find alternative business models to the publisher funding we seem to be using at the moment. This will see more independent developers being funded like other businesses. And this is the manner that we fund at InterZone, with private investment coming together in order to create a new studio and working on the games that we want to work on. And we're going to be self-publishing as well, so we know that we have the flexibility to just work on the game that we've decided to work on, and we'll see it through until it's finished, and then we'll publish it. And the only reason it won't get published is because we decide not to either hold it off or